Hey, Susan, the last few weeks I've been followed online by ads for Noom. So I decided to check it out. Have you heard of Noom before?
I have.
So what caught my eye about Noom is that it's a personalized weight loss plan.
Yeah, most weight loss plans are sort of a one-size-fits-all deal, and that doesn't work when everyone leads such different, crazy, hectic lives. And I know for us, a big challenge of trying to eat right is being on the road a lot and between airports and, me and the hotel breakfast bars.
You do love those breakfast bars.
Love those. A little too much. And that's why Noom is great. It addresses your lifestyle, your habits, and finds the issues in your life that are blocking your weight loss goals.
It feels like a personalized weight loss plan to meet everyone's lifestyle. And the best thing about it, it doesn't seem to restrict what you eat and doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself. Hello, Manhattans.
So if you want to get one of those hotel waffles, you're good to go. Look, you're going to have cravings. There's going to be things you want to eat. With Noom, you can. And Noom helps you lose weight while still enjoying your life.
It also looks at your personal psychology. Losing weight starts with the brain, so why not look at your brain to see what would work for you?
Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. And check out Noom's first ever cookbook, The Noom Kitchen, for 100 healthy and delicious recipes to promote better living. Available to buy now wherever books are sold.
So don't forget, sign up for your trial today at Noom.com.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car-selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Hello and welcome to this week's Sidebar. We're here to discuss episode 13 of season 2 of Proof. I'm here with Jacinda and Kevin.
Hey, Susan, how are you?
Susan.
So our first question today comes from Renee's friend Amber. And she writes, did I hear Kevin in the background say, you can do better after Tim asked Susan out?
I will preface this by saying that we hung out with Amber a few times. So she understands my sense of humor. And I never miss an opportunity to put Susan and Jacinda in their place.
I will say that Tim was a gentleman and defended me and told you were being mean.
Yeah, and that was after you refused his advances, Susan. So
I don't think that even came close to the aggressive comment that you had saying that Lewis had suggested that Jacinda was old.
He did say that.
He did not say that. I think we need to go back and check the audio.
He said I had a fat ass, though.
Unfortunately, that's the moment where we weren't recording, right? So I guess it's your memory versus my memory.
So we've talked about Tim Fisher on the show before, but this episode was the first time we actually sat down and talked to Tim for ourselves. As you heard in the show, the interview was somewhat spur of the moment. We hadn't planned on talking to him that day, got the chance and jumped on it. And I think we all sort of realized as the interview went on that we may not have been entirely prepared for it yet.
Yeah, it's interesting when you sit down with someone who you're just trying to get a feel for what they know. And I don't think that we were entirely prepared with all the facts of the case to maybe ask him everything we wanted to at that particular moment. And I think for me, I was looking at it as more of gathering information and getting an understanding of who Tim Fisher was, whose name appears in the police file a few times.
Yeah, I agree. We weren't planning on doing it. We went over and we had decided sort of like, well, let's just see what he has to say. Like, we don't know enough information ourselves yet to really ask the questions or confront him on anything. So let's see what he knows. And I think as we talked to him, we realized that he knew more than we expected, especially in terms of just his relationship or friendship with Renee.
Now, obviously, by the time we actually talked to him, we'd had a very good indication he actually did know Renee. Before that, if we'd gone in there and he'd said, oh, I only saw Renee in passing. I didn't really know her, never really talked to her. At that moment, we would not be able to challenge him. We would have probably believed him. Well, mostly, other than the fact we heard him talking earlier about her on the phone with Lewis. And walking in to have him instead say, no, I love that girl. She was a good friend of mine. I gave her rides all the time. Oh, and by the way, I knew the sisters was kind of the moment for me when I realized, well, okay, so everything we've heard in the file, like all those stories there, actually could have happened. Like that's totally plausible.
Yeah, and plausible in the sense that Renee could have ended up at the sister's house. Like before, that was sort of the missing piece of the puzzle. Like, how would she have even ended up there?
No, the idea of her ending up there is not difficult at all. She sees her good friend Tim. Tim's gonna go hang out with sisters because he's staying there at the time.
It became very clear to me about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so into the conversation with Tim Fisher that I was already thinking about a second conversation.
For me, it was when he said, I had some friends back then. You know, a guy named Eric Greer. Like, what an interesting name to choose randomly.
I think what also became clear to me during the conversation is that as much as we were trying to see what kind of information Tim Fisher might have about Renee or about any of the relationships among people in the town, is Tim Fisher was also very curious to see what kind of information we had and to learn a little bit about us.
My guess is still that there were several points he assumed we had more info than we did.
Yes.
And he thought he was getting ahead of things by confirming a story he knew he wanted to ask about when we didn't even know to ask about it.
It was an awkward conversation at a certain point because
He never asked you out.
that could have even been less awkward than some of the other things that took place. But it was an awkward conversation in the sense that it was very friendly, and I had no reason for it to not be friendly. But it was clear that we needed to do a little more research to have a more in-depth conversation with him. And
you're also hoping that you'll actually get a second opportunity, and you have to make those kind of decisions on the fly. Like, is it worth risking not having a second chance with him to let him just keep talking, or do we not take that risk? And in this situation, we decided, hey, let's see if we can get him sit down with us again.
Yeah, we couldn't ask the questions we needed to ask and be able to back it up with what we knew for sure at that time. We needed to know more than he did, essentially, before we started asking those questions.
It was certainly an intense grilled cheese that I had that day.
Customers are rushing to your store. Do you have a point-of-sale system you can trust, or is it, a real POS? And if it is, you need Shopify for retail.
Shopify POS is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person.
With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock.
Connect with customers in line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond.
Get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution.
Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/prooftruecrime, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/prooftruecrime to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/prooftruecrime.
Evidence-wise, we had virtually no evidence.
In 1995, Detective Tony Richardson was trying to figure out who killed a fellow officer. The case comes down to who is believed and who is ignored.
Oh my goodness, we did convict an innocent man.
I'm Beth Shelburne from Lava for Good Podcasts. This is Earwitness. Listen to Earwitness on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, I have another comment that a listener shared on Twitter that I want to share with y'all. Uh, Derek E. wrote, I'm glad you guys have Kevin and Dan around with you while speaking to these weirdos.
Okay.
Hold up.
Hold up. Let's just set the record straight here.
Yeah, you guys are very fortunate to have the two of us in your corner. Sure. Yeah.
I was on a shoot, not a proof shoot. I was on another shoot with Dan once, and the interview got a little heated. It turned out fine, but afterwards we were at dinner, and I asked Dan, like, what was your plan? Like, what was your plan if things got, dicey? His plan was to push the camera onto the interview subject and run out the back door and leave me in the room to fend for myself. So,
Yeah, I thought that was quite a brazen take he had on the situation.
well, that brings us to another question from someone who wrote in. I would like to ask on this week's sidebar, one, how many times have Susan and Jacinda been hit on while conducting an interview? And two, how many times, to their knowledge, have they been referred to as prostitutes while conducting an interview?
I like that to their knowledge. The answer to the first question is probably a little more often than you expect. The answer to the second's never, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I would say the answer to the first question is that we are so, I mean, let's just put it out there. We're both so socially awkward. I'm not sure we would even know if we're being hit on unless it was completely blatant.
Like an 80-year-old cop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kevin probably can weigh in more because you're often there with us, but
Yeah, I have noticed over the many, many years that I've known Jacinda that the people who perhaps do hit on her tend to be retired police officers who,
Don't downplay her. Jacinda has old cop games.
oh God.
yeah, there was the time actually in Rome where you two were inside a police officer's house and I was outside, so we didn't overwhelm this guy, and his wife wanted to know what was going on.
That's true.
Why were there two women inside her home? I
Yeah.
told her I'm sure it was all above board.
And then we also have a question to like jump back an episode, but I think it's worth bringing up because maybe, it's something we can clear up. Someone wrote in, my question, and I'm sure I just somehow missed it, is why was Josh never considered a suspect? If he knows some of the details that were accurate, why wasn't he treated like a suspect?
So the answer is one, he was considered a suspect in that we did definitely have that as a possibility. It wasn't something we dismissed before looking into it. But two, Josh didn't know any details. That's kind of why he is not a suspect, because nothing he says is right. Everything he says is not backed up by the facts, not backed up by other witnesses or by reality. And although somehow that testimony was enough to get convictions at trial, from an objective standpoint, there is not a reason to believe that he had any information about the murder beyond what anyone in Manteca would have had from hearing it on the news.
And beyond our investigation, though, what about the detectives not treating him like a suspect? Like he could have been charged with like accessory to a crime or something like that.
At the same time, I actually think that the prosecutor hints fairly directly at a few points at trial that the reason Josh is lying is because he was involved. And it's a better explanation for why he's lying than the other stuff they suggest. But there's no evidence for it. Like, the thing is, Josh doesn't know anything. Renee was not strangled with her bra. She was not beaten to death. Like, nothing he has said is ever actually matched up with reality.
And then one more Josh question, since we're talking about him. Someone asked, why can't Jake get a new trial based on Josh changing his story so many times?
Because recanting witnesses in general aren't a reason to grant a new trial, and especially not in this case when he recanted before the trial. So the jury heard him recant and still convicted Jake. So there is no court in America that will consider that reason to reconsider the conviction. I mean, it's a reason they shouldn't have tried him in the first place, but, too late for that.
Yeah, once it's done, it's done. There was no question that he had changed his story. The jury knew that. He said he was lying. The prosecutor leans into it, saying, we all know Josh is lying. So there's nothing there now that could help in terms of a new trial for Jake.
But it is a reminder that sometimes juries don't necessarily need a whole lot to convict. And a 14-year-old boy who admits he's lying can be enough to send someone to prison for life, or two people to prison for life until they're murdered.
When it comes to Josh, we're pretty confident about his involvement, or should we call it lack of involvement. But leaving the Tim Fisher interview, we weren't as confident about anything, and we knew we needed to find out more information. So we left the interview, thinking he might meet us the next day, and canceled. And we were kind of grateful for that because it wouldn't have given us enough time to do the research we needed to do. So, but it did influence the course of our investigation a little bit. We knew we needed to focus a little bit more on the sister story, which you'll hear about in the next episode, what we were able to learn more about and some of the things Tim told us about. But we also had to continue to chase leads on Jared Conway.
Jared Conway, of course, is the serial sex offender who is currently in prison in California for a 2008 abduction with intent to rape, who lived very close to Renee, very close to Home Depot. And he was someone else who we first started to investigate. It was the same thing as Tim, like, okay, here's a weird story. Let's go look at it. And then suddenly, as we're looking into it, we realize we cannot rule it out. And also there's some interesting stuff here to consider further.
You've been listening to Proof, Sidebar, a podcast by Red Marble Media in association with Glassbox Media. Send us your questions and comments at proofcrimepod@gmail.com. Follow us everywhere with the handle @proofcrimepod and on our website, proofcrimepod.com. Regular episodes drop on Mondays, and you can find sidebars on Thursdays. Thanks so much for listening.